Now part 2 of our I-Team investigation into a state-endorsed program to dump low-level radioactive waste right into ordinary landfills. It's been happening for almost 20 years right down the road in Murfreesboro. Tonight, some of the many people who were caught by surprise and now are wanting answers.
We're thinking it was built in 1803.
Historian Martin Rooker can tell you what happened 100 years ago on his treasured homestead.
Thomas Rooker held the first county court meeting here.
But what's been happening for 20 years now, right in their line of sight, caught this couple by complete surprise.
It scares me to death. It's terrible. It's awful.
It's called Bulk Survey for Release. Since at least the early 1990s, without any public hearing, Tennessee has allowed low-level radioactive waste to go into Murfreesboro's Middle Point landfill. It was the brainchild of the nuclear processing industry, a business homegrown in our state. With a $30,000 annual license, companies can take what's left of old nuclear weapons or power plants, process it, they determine when it's safe, then send it out with the trash.
The real problem is that there is no safe level of radioactivity.
It doesn't require any containerization. It's material at such low activities is not of a radiation hazard.
But if you went right up to it with instrumentation, could you get a reading?
If you had very, very good instrumentation, you might.
I don't think we knew. I obviously didn't till this interview.
State Representative Donna Rowland says she's lived and breathed the landfill, been to protests, countless meetings. She doesn't want her neighbors exposed to any unnecessary risk.
Last time I looked, you had to have protective gear on to handle any radiation. But yet we're putting it in our communities, near playgrounds where our kids play, near subdivisions that are built, near major interchanges. But it's practically not even radioactive. That's not acceptable.
I couldn't believe it. I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands of tons.
Environmental consultant Mark Quarles has analyzed dozens of troubled sites. He's most concerned about the groundwater, because once it's buried, the state does no further checking on that radioactive rubbish.
You know, you can see right there how close we are to a drinking water source. This dumps into Percy Priest Lake. You would think that once they started putting bulk survey waste in the landfills, that they would at least start testing the groundwater for those contaminants.
Especially at Middle Point, where the landfill liner was once accidentally punctured.
Where is the authority for this state agency to let this radioactive material go out of control?
Nuclear watchdogs say Tennessee is overstepping its bounds, allowing a boutique industry to write its own rules, decide what is and isn't radioactive or harmful, and impose additional risk on all of us without asking. If you're wondering what the state stands to gain, a scientist who pioneered the process says Tennessee takes its cut.
The state charges $0.015 a pound of all material that goes through any process.
And as we speak, the state is considering new guidelines.
Will there be a public hearing on these rules, or is this all within the industry?
Well, this is not a rule, and it would not be, required to conduct a public hearing. There's obviously a lot of interest in this process, and we'll take comments from anyone, and we'd be very glad to receive those.
Now, the state says it deserves some credit for calling a duck, acknowledging that there is radiation, albeit at low levels, on this scrap material. They say other states have no system at all for regulating the bulk survey business. And only California has banned radioactive trash altogether from landfills. Tennessee's made as much as $1.8 million through that penny-a-pound tax. And far and away, the bulk of this processing work is done within our state lines. Makes you wonder whether we're also receiving the bulk of what goes into landfills.